What if the person you love the most suddenly becomes the one who hurts you, just because of a single word you said wrong? This story is about a marriage in America, where love and misunderstanding live in the same home. One night, in a tiny kitchen, a small English mistake almost broke a life we spent years trying to build. If you've ever felt unheard, unseen, or ready to give up on love, this journey might remind you why it's worth fighting for. A marriage built on misunderstanding. Love is never a clean, polished sentence. It's messy, full of pauses, full of words you wish you could take back. When I first built a life with my husband in America, I thought love alone would be enough. We were young, hopeful, speaking English every day, thinking that as long as we used the same language, our hearts would always understand each other. But love, it turns out, has its own accent. And sometimes even in English it sounds foreign. Picture this. You are trying to express how much you care, but your tongue gets twisted by fear. You say things too fast. You choose the wrong word. Your partner hears frustration, while you were trying to show love. That's exactly how our story began. Two people who adored each other, but kept wounding each other without meaning to. That I remember those early months in California. Sunshine outside, storms inside. I was trying so hard to be a good spouse, to speak politely, to sound calm and confident. But my heart was loud. My insecurities were louder. When I couldn't find the right English word, I filled the silence with anger. When he didn't understand what I meant, he filled it with hurt. "You don't listen to me," I would say. "I am listening," he would answer. Point two correct sentences. Zero understanding. It felt like living with subtitles that never matched the movie. The truth is, being in love in a new country is like playing a video game on hard mode. You are learning how to pay bills, how to pronounce comfortable correctly, how to survive homesickness. And at the same time, you are trying to protect the happiness you've just found. Your brain gets overwhelmed. Your heart gets impatient. Suddenly, the person you love becomes the person you argue with the most. Scientists say that when you're stressed or scared, your brain literally hears words differently. It focuses on threat, tries to defend you. So when your partner says, "I need space," your brain translates it into, "I don't love you anymore." In other words, your nervous system chooses drama. And ours chose drama every single day. But here's the strange beauty of it. Even when we were exhausted from fighting, even when tears were still drying on our faces, there was this tiny stubborn voice inside both of you. Don't let go. Somehow, underneath all the misunderstandings, there was something warm, something worth saving. Looking back, I realize our marriage wasn't built on perfect communication. It was built on the courage to stay, to try again, to say a sentence, then try to say it better. Love begins as a big promise, but it survives through small corrections. The night we almost broke. There are nights you never forget. Not because something magical happened, but because something almost ended. Ours began with leftover pasta on the stove and two tired hearts pretending everything was fine. It was one of those evenings where silence tastes heavier than words, where every small noise, plates, doors, even breathing feels like a warning. He asked me a simple question. "Are you okay?" I wanted to say, "I just miss home. I'm trying my best." But instead I snapped, Why do you always think something is wrong with me? One wrong sentence. One wrong tone. Boom. His eyes looked confused first, then hurt, then angry. And suddenly we were no longer talking about the question. We were talking about every fight we ever had. Every misunderstanding. Every disappointment hiding under the bed, waiting to jump out. If love had a soundtrack, ours at that moment was the sound of two people raising their voices to prove they're the ones hurting more. You don't understand me. You never tell me what you feel. I'm trying. No, you're attacking. It was English, but it wasn't communication. The pasta got cold. The air got hot. My heart was screaming in Vietnamese, but my mouth could only fight in English. I couldn't explain loneliness. I couldn't translate the fear of being thousands of miles away from family while pretending to be strong. He couldn't decode the meaning behind my tears. I'm scared. Please hold me. Stress makes the brain stupid. It shuts down the part that listens and wakes up the part that wants to survive. We weren't husband and wife anymore. We were two cornered animals defending our pride. Researchers say the brain confuses emotional pain with physical danger, so your partner suddenly becomes the enemy, even when you love them. And in that kitchen under the weak yellow light, love looked like a battlefield. He grabbed his jacket. He said, "I need space." The door closed. The silence afterward was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. I sat on the kitchen floor, next to the cold pasta, shaking like someone whose entire life had just slipped through their fingers. All because I couldn't say the truth. I'm scared of losing you, even when you're right here. What nobody tells you is this: love doesn't break because of big betrayals. Love breaks quietly, through small moments when no one dares to be honest. That night didn't end our marriage, but it changed it forever. It forced us to face the question we were both afraid to ask. If we can't understand each other now, how will we survive a lifetime? Sometimes the worst night is the beginning of the real story. Words that hurt without meaning to. There's a cruel irony in love. The closer you are to someone, the easier it is to hurt them. Not because you want to, but because they are the one person whose reactions matter the most. After that night, he came back home. No grand speech, no dramatic tears. Just two exhausted souls sitting across from each other, staring at the cracks we accidentally created. He asked me gently this time, "What did you mean when you said that?" And my mind froze. The honest answer would have been, "I'm drowning inside, but I don't know how to ask for help." Instead, I said the worst thing possible. "I don't know." 3 words. Sharp like broken glass. They cut both of us. You see, sometimes the most painful sentences are not insults. They are confessions of confusion. Scientists call this emotional misattunement. When your heart is ringing the alarm, but your mouth sounds like you don't care. Your partner hears indifference. But what you're really saying is, "My feelings are too heavy for me to explain." He misunderstood my panic as rejection, and I misunderstood his concern as judgment, and we kept throwing tiny darts at each other, not knowing how deeply each one was landing. "Why are you making this a big deal? I'm not good enough for you, right? I didn't mean it like that. You always mean it like that. Every word felt like stepping barefoot on hidden nails. Our accents didn't match. Our expectations didn't match. Our ways of expressing love definitely didn't match. Americans grow up learning to say feelings. Vietnamese grow up learning to show feelings, so sometimes I thought cooking dinner was, I love you. He thought that saying I appreciate you was, I love you. But we were both waiting for the other person to speak our language. Isn't that wild? Love is right in front of you, but your brain refuses to accept it unless it comes in the exact form you're used to. Like a locked door with the key already inside. There came a moment sitting next to him when I finally whispered the truth I was scared of. I don't know the right words, and I'm afraid you'll give up while I'm still trying. He didn't respond immediately. He just reached out his hand, and that tiny gesture spoke fluent love. Because love doesn't die when words fail. It dies when no one tries anymore. That night we made a small promise. Not to be perfect. Not to magically understand each other, but to stop assuming the worst. To believe that even the clumsiest sentence might contain love if we look closely enough. Sometimes the softest words are hiding behind the harshest ones. Sometimes pain is just love wearing the wrong outfit. Love sounds different here. Some memories sit quietly in your brain until one day they step forward and say, hey, this changed everything. For me, it was a morning in a crowded grocery store. My husband was choosing apples while I stood there, overwhelmed by the noise, the English announcements, the thought of being far from every street, every face I once called home. He noticed my silence and asked, what's wrong? I wanted to say everything feels too loud. Everything feels too foreign. But all I managed was a weak, I'm fine. Those two words became my survival strategy in America. I'm fine equals I'm lonely. I'm fine equals I'm scared I don't belong. I'm fine equals please don't push me away. Love here had a different sound. Not gentle like the lullabies my mother hummed. Not subtle like the way my father fixed anything broken without a word. Love in the US was direct, verbal, confident. Americans talk about their feelings like they're reading a menu. Clear choices, simple explanations. Meanwhile, my heart was still using Vietnamese subtitles when he said, I love you. It was loud, sure, like a statement when I said, I love you. It was quiet, shy, like breathing. He thought my quiet meant less loved. I thought his loud meant less depth. 2 hearts. 2 languages. Same sentence, different volume. Psychologists say every culture has its own love language system. Some show affection through words, others through actions. When those systems collide, the brain gets confused. It expects familiar signals, a tone, a gesture, a silence. When it doesn't see them, panic hits. So we start doubting the love that's actually there. That panic almost ended us. I remember one night he told me, it's hard to love someone who never says what she feels. It stabbed deeper than he knew. Not because he was cruel, but because he was right. I was loving him in a way he didn't understand. And the scariest part, I didn't know how to love differently. But something shifted when he stopped raising his voice and asked a softer question. What does love sound like to you? I didn't answer right away that I pointed to him doing the dishes, to him holding my hand in crowded places, to him waiting for me to translate my emotions into English, even if it took forever. That, I said. That's what love sounds like. He smiled. And for the first time, English didn't feel like a barrier. It felt like a bridge, a way for us to meet halfway between his world and mine. Love in America may sound louder, but loud or quiet, it's still love, as long as it finds its way home. Tiny acts save big love. There is a strange truth about marriage. The huge promises are exciting, but the tiny gestures are what keep a relationship alive. Not the "I'll love you forever" speeches, but the "Did you eat yet?" text at 2 p.m. Not diamond rings, but the way someone puts a blanket over you when you fall asleep on the couch. Love survives in the small moments, like crumbs no one notices, but without them the whole thing collapses. One evening, I came home exhausted. Eyes puffy, English brain fried, courage completely drained. The house was quiet. For a second I thought he wasn't there. Then I saw a sticky note on the fridge. "Dinner is in the oven." I know today was tough. 16 simple words. But they felt like oxygen. You wouldn't think reheated food could fix a marriage. Yet at that moment it saved me from crumbling. Tiny act. Big rescue. Scientists say the brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, from small acts of affection. Things like a soft touch, eye contact, a warm cup of tea handed to you without being asked. These tiny signals tell your nervous system, you are safe here. And when you feel safe, love becomes easier. He started learning my silent language. The way I push my hair behind my ear when I'm anxious. The way I stare at the floor when homesickness hits. The way my voice gets too quiet when my heart is too loud. And I started learning his. The way his shoulders drop when he's worried. The way he cleans when he feels powerless. The way he says, "I'm fine," but avoids eye contact when he actually needs help, just like me. One night he was driving home late. I sent him a short message. "Drive safe. I want you home." He later told me that those 6 words felt like a hug. Small, but enough that that's the funny thing. Grand gestures look good in movies, but small gestures build real families. There was this weekend when we fought again, nothing dramatic, just stress. We spent hours avoiding each other in the same tiny apartment. I was washing dishes angrily for no reason. He stood behind me, nervous. Then he placed a warm mug of tea next to my hand. No apology, no lecture. Just I didn't say thank you. But the knot in my chest loosened. Love doesn't always come wrapped in perfect sentences. Sometimes it's just a mug of tea quietly saying, "I'm still here." Every time we chose kindness over pride, we stitched our marriage back together. Not with huge dramatic solutions, but one small moment at a time. One note, one hug, one late night "Are you okay?" asked in a softer voice. When people talk about saving a relationship, they imagine huge change, therapy, vacations, grand gestures. But the truth is much simpler. You save love by choosing it, again and again. In the tiniest ways possible. Warm moments don't shout. They whisper. But those whispers are strong enough to change everything. learning the language of each other. I used to think English was just grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. But marriage taught me something else. Sometimes the most important words are the ones we never learned in school. He speaks fast when he's stressed. I go silent when I'm hurt. Two different reactions that look like distance. But what if silence is not rejection, it's protection? What if raising a voice is not anger? It's fear of losing what matters. We started learning more than English. We learned to say, I'm listening. We learned to hear the pain behind a single sentence. We learned that love has accents too, and misunderstandings can sound loud, even when the room is quiet. Some nights I still make mistakes. Some nights he still misunderstands, but every sorry becomes a bridge. Every thank you becomes a hand reaching across the gap. And little by little we are translating each other heart to heart, not word to word. Maybe the real journey isn't learning English in America. Maybe it's learning how to stay when love feels difficult, how to hold each other when fear speaks louder than trust, how to say, even without perfect language, you matter to me. Let's try again. Vocabulary that saved us. There are only a few English words I will never forget. Not because a textbook taught them, but because my heart did. Stay. The night I almost packed everything and left, he didn't know how to explain his fear. So he just stood there, eyes shaking, repeating that one word like a lifeline. Listen. The argument that went too far that we were talking loud, but neither of us was hearing anything, until he whispered it, soft, trembling, as if silence might break the last thread holding us together. Home. The first time he said it about us, not a place. It sounded clumsy, almost too small for the meaning behind it. But that word changed everything because I realized home is not a building, it's a heartbeat that chooses you. Again. The promise hidden inside every apology that we failed yesterday. We might fail again tomorrow, but we still show up, willing to try one more time. These words are short, easy to pronounce, but each one is heavy with nights we could not sleep, tears we tried to hide, and love we almost lost. Maybe language isn't what keeps a marriage alive. Maybe it's the courage to keep saying the words that make loving each other possible. Call to action with feelings. If this story feels a little too close, maybe it's because your heart still remembers the voice you thought you'd forgotten. Don't leave yet. There are parts of love we haven't translated, things you whisper in the dark that even English doesn't have words for. Stay with me for the next chapter. Maybe together, we can learn why some hearts break, just so they can finally learn how to stay. When you're ready, press subscribe so you don't miss the moment love finds its language again.